Griswold versus Connecticut has been used repeatedly in the last 50 years to basically create a body of constitutional precedent that says the relationships of people, romantic, intimate relationships, should be free from the intrusion of big government. You can't criminalize somebody because of their relationship. And somebody who is not willing to commit to that principle, I think, is somebody who has not earned my vote. And with that, I yield the floor. And again, I thank my friend from Texas.
Madam President.
Majority Whip.
Madam President, members of the Senate have been coming to the floor talking about the important vote that we'll be casting tomorrow, and then again on Friday, which will result in the confirmation of Judge Neil Gorsuch as the next Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court. Having served on the Senate Judiciary Committee since I first came to the Senate, it's been my honor to participate in the confirmation hearings in the committee on now 5 Supreme Court justices, Judge Gorsuch being the latest. And what I've been struck by when it comes to Judge Gorsuch is how much our friends across the aisle who cast a party line vote in the Judiciary Committee against the judge on his confirmation, how much they've been struggling to come up with even one intellectually honest argument against the nominee, in spite of his obvious and tremendous qualifications and bipartisan support. For example, I heard our colleague from Virginia, my friend Senator Kaine, criticize a couple of decisions that the judge made. What he left out is Judge Gorsuch participated in 2,700 panel decisions on the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals during his 10-year tenure there. 99% of them, or 97% of them, excuse me, were unanimous. As a presiding officer knows, that means that each of the judges, the 3 judges on the typical panel or in an en banc, basically that everyone agreed, whether they were nominated by a Republican or Democrat. So this whole idea of cherry picking the judge's judicial record to try to find some straw, to grasp at some straw with which to disagree with his confirmation is pretty striking to me. But last night we saw the latest act of desperation to try to justify the unprecedented partisan filibuster of Judge Gorsuch. For example, it was reported that a handful of lines in a 2006 book were borrowed from other sources. Well, the timing of this says it all. This book's been published for 10 years. The only reason for this allegation is a last-minute attempt to try to make something, really anything, stick, to tarnish the character of someone who will soon serve on the United States Supreme Court. This kind of baseless who will soon serve on the United States Supreme Court. This kind of absolutely no merit. Even the author of the main article allegedly plagiarized has rejected that characterization. So this is the person who wrote the article that Judge Gorsuch was claimed to have plagiarized, in essence. Well, the author of the main article rejected the characterization of plagiarization. She said that under the circumstances, it would have been awkward and difficult for Judge Gorsuch to have used different language. Other academic experts have also rejected the claim and made clear that the preferred methodology for facts is to cite original sources, which is exactly what Judge Gorsuch did. Talk about an 11th hour baseless attack. The bottom line is this: instead of evaluating the judge based on his qualifications, his sterling reputation he has among people across the political spectrum, our friends across the aisle are determined to attempt the first successful partisan filibuster of a Supreme Court nominee. That's disappointing, but it's also destined for failure. Yesterday, I pointed out how we actually got here. Back during the President George W. Bush's first term, Senator Schumer and others laid the groundwork and then executed a strategy for unprecedented obstruction of judicial nominees. That was in response to the election of the last Republican president. And this is in response to the election of a new Republican president. I think for him, following the election of the current one, obstruction is of a perfectly qualified nominee to the Supreme Court is just the next step. It actually represents the ultimate escalation of this weaponization of the filibuster used in judicial confirmation. As I've said before, based on the merits of the nominee, the justifications for opposing Judge Gorsuch are paper thin. Our colleagues across the aisle unanimously supported Judge Gorsuch when he was confirmed to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals